Right?
One at a time, guys.
like,
Let's just have a nice
everyone thinks Americans
conversation
are
here.
ignorant for a reason, right? And this conversation shows it, right?
Oh no! Don't go down this.
Obviously,
Don't go down the
obviously,
spoon
right?
route. Come on, Carl. Let's be
Yeah,
friends
but
here.
he's right and you're wrong, right? You have
Spoon?
to understand. Like it's the worst. It's the most cringe thing in the world.
You
When
haven't.
you guys,
If
when
we
you
were-
guys talk about liberal
You
democracy,
haven't.
in
You
Ukraine,
keep.
That little moment made my Sunday evening, so I tip my hat to you, Mr. Benjamin. Much appreciated. Also, I have to give a massive thanks to him and Louis, who spoke about this whole international affair last night. After frankly suffering through a colossal mountain of dim-witted, narrow-minded takes on the subject, listening to a conversation of realism with those two was a very, very much needed decompressing breath of fresh air, especially from Louis. Louis is the most underrated YouTuber we have, and I mean that, more so because he's an American who is pro-West, but is not bogged down and drowning in exceptionalism like so many of his countrymen. He isn't afraid to call out the bumbling incompetence of his own state, which is so damn rare, so thank you, gentlemen, for restoring a bit of my sanity. Watching this whole affair play out and the public opinion unfold, the amount of left-leaning people who are suddenly war-hawking neocons is mind-boggling to me. And the lack of any nuance around this conversation, the immediate mobbing of any dissenting opinion. I'm not so much surprised by that, given that we live in a democracy, mob rule and all, but there is zero room for introspection on behalf of the Americans. No inkling that they might be somewhat culpable for this unnecessary conflict. I've been trying for a few weeks now, racking my brain, trying to figure out why they are like this. The best explanation that I can come up with is the youth and geographical location of their nation. It is a land devoid of any real history or heritage. Oh yeah, you had a revolution and a civil war. That's adorable. That's really very cute. Now look at the rest of the world. France, Germany, Spain, Portugal, the Netherlands, Italy, Greece, Great Britain, Austria, Russia, Japan, China. These are ancient nation states with a long and wealthy, rich history. They are seasoned warriors. America, by comparison, is still covered in afterbirth. These lands have seen kings and queens, powerful monarchs, emperors, dynasties, empires, great kingdoms, battles, and forging of great nations. America has none of this. It's a massive landmass sitting by itself. It's never been invaded. It's never been conquered by a foreign foe. It's wet behind the ears. Its people are, oh, we escaped monarchy. Monarchy bad. Yay, Constitution. And that's it. That is all they know. It is a spoiled baby of a nation. So when it says, oh, why can't you be more like us? It carries this obnoxious stench of youthful arrogance that makes us hate you. And hearing these type of yanks talk about liberal democracy, oh dear Lord, I 100% agree with Sargon. It is the most cringe thing in the world, listening to Americans talk about liberal democracy. Now, my reasons are likely different to Sargon's, but for me, the Americans' perceptions of the capabilities of liberal democracy is such an overblown, romanticized fantasy that it bears absolutely no relation to reality. The way they talk about it is almost like a bastardized take on blank slate theory, almost akin to Thomas Sowell's vision of the anointed. If you look at it from the perspective of nature versus nurture, they present it as if it's nature. It's a piece of software that is innately compatible with the hardware of all human nature, that you can take any civilization that's never had any prior experience with democracy, and you can simply chuck it at them, and they'll take to it like a fish to water. And it's always presented as a boon. I do not ascribe to this position at all. I think that's a fucking absurdity. Mainly because I'm a monarchist and I abhor democracy. I do not view it as this golden tool that somehow mitigates and dissolves corruption like a magic trick. I take the opposite view, in fact. I think democracy breeds corruption. If you take any group of corrupt politicians and implant them into a liberal democracy, the structures of liberal democracy will not dissipate the existing corruption. It will just pervert and accommodate it in the new structure. Case in point, do all liberal democracies have an equal level of corruption? No, because the problem is not the structure. The problem is the flawed and weakened resolve of man, which cultural and moral evolution naturally plays a part in. If you look at America right now, and I'll just say this bluntly, there is a substantial amount of Americans who have no fucking idea what makes their nation function and powerful. It's in the middle of committing cultural suicide because it has no cultural ties to anything of value. It's a civilization in rapid decline. What America exports with democracy, such as it is this twisted, socially constructed new ethic that is so soul-destroying. It's this mass-produced gunk that purges any unique cultural fingerprint of any nation it touches under this evil idealism of equality, and I hate it. And that puts me in a difficult position, so I have to be very careful with how I word this. I'm not endorsing these nations or their governments, but thank God for Russia and China, and I hate that I'm saying that, believe me. And I know there are some people that will say, oh, they are responsible for the social decay and subversion of the West. No, that's a nice scapegoat, but if you look at America, its deplorable love affair with progressivism goes back all the way to the late 1800s, long before even the Bolshevik Revolution. But I like that there are other superpowers who can see this pro-LGBT, anti-male, pro-feminism for the cancer that it is. I like that there are still some nations who are shamelessly patriarchal, who stand up to this cultural plague the West is so hell-bent on exporting and says, no, you will not infect my nation. I am not remotely surprised that other nations see how weak and socially alienated our societies have become and hard pass on it saying, your civilization is collapsing. Why the hell would we want to be like you? That is completely reasonable to me. And frankly, more power to them. They should keep their traditions. And this is why I'm torn between two sides. One is the anarchic-minded libertarian, and the other is veering rapidly towards the absolute monarch. And I find myself switching between what I can find personally acceptable, but on the other hand, what I feel is necessary for principled morality and social order. The anarchic libertarian says live and let people do what they want. The monarchical side says no, that is an unrealistic ideal because you will have clashes and idiots who tug at the seams of social norms to upend it under the delusion of some unholy demented grand vision. There's a saying the difference between medicine and poison is in the dose, and that is the problem with unfettered liberalism. It's long past becoming poison, and you evidently need some powerful bulwark that protects the masses from their own stupidity. And unfortunately, from the looks of it, the solution is not the free market. And I'll end this with this. There are only two genders, and you can't change them. Marriage should be between a husband and a wife, and a child deserves a mother and a father, and their innocence is to be protected at all costs. And if you disagree with me on this, you're wrong and you can kiss my ass. And that's all for today. Until next time.